Let's start Canucks.
Start Canucks first. I did try a couple of the hot sauces from Hot Ones, and that was pretty damn good.
I just cannot do it. I don't enjoy the hot stuff at all. I have to have the mild wings. I have to have like honey garlic. I just can't do.
Yeah, that's fair. It's not for everyone.
No.
I may give Chris a hard time for some of this stuff, but it is not for everyone.
There was an old wings place called Hurley's that used to have really hot wings back in the day. It was by Chinook Center.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
We are live. As soon as I find everything that I'm looking for. Hang on. We really are live now.
Started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself. I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
It sure is. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hockey Podcast. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube on a Wednesday afternoon. You can follow us, of course, on Twitter at podcast_hockey. Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast. You can give us a like there. YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we are now at Daniel Sedin. I was like, if I'm making sure, I got to make sure it's the right Sedin. Daniel Sedin subscribers there. Yes. And of course, subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts. Sean, you look like are you in a bunker?
I am not in my normal spot. That's correct. Heidi is working out when she finishes off work here in about 5-10 minutes. So the main area where we normally podcast is off limits. So I have this crazy jury rig set up here. I've got an old shelf that I've got set up. And then a bunch of boxes on top of it to make it at the right height and everything, and then just using an old camp chair just to set things up. We don't have a big enough place to have room for workouts and podcasting at the same time, but so I'll just make it work for today, and then get back to the normal setup once for the next episode.
Hey, that's fair. If you guys ever want to donate, there's a reason. There you go. Devin, what's going on?
Not much, man. I'm in a bit of a different spot too, and living in a 500 square foot apartment with a dog, a fiance, and a cat. Man, if we don't kill ourselves with the pandemic right now and being in lockdown, then we'll be just fine, I think.
Fair.
Well, at least it looks like you'll be things are starting to open up and give you guys stuff to do starting next week, hopefully.
Yeah. Amped Advantage is opening up on Monday, February 8th. And we're getting pretty booked up. So any listeners want to come work out, feel free to come and check us out. Amped Advantage, ampadvantage.com.
There you go. That's some sponsor. That's some plug-in. That's some commercialing. That's in Alberta. Here in BC, we're BC. That's what we do. And we're over 400 cases right now, so I don't know if Dr. Money Henry says no Super Bowl party, so we'll have to hang out here in my little apartment as well, in my own makeshift setup.
Yeah, I bought a shit ton of wings to make in our air fryer for Super Bowl. So at least I've got that taken care of.
Nice.
Any sandwiches? Planning on eating any sandwiches?
No.
Devin, any plans on eating sandwiches?
Tonight, actually, yeah, we're gonna be making our own hot chicken sandwich. So that's gonna be a first. I've never deep fried anything before, so it should be pretty interesting to figure all this out on the fly. But I've missed my my hot chicken sandwiches from alumni sandwiches on 17th Ave in Calgary. Really good.
Holy, Devin's on the commercial roll here. Wow, this is impressive.
Sorry, Steven. And obviously, wing night at Wings for Pig and Duke. I'm really excited to get back there. That's for sure.
Yeah. They'll be open for next week for wing night.
Yeah. The Vancouver Canucks have had a sandwich. It's a big, juicy with fries and a big drink and a couple of beers and a couple of other things. It's been a big fat Toffoli sandwich. He has scored 8 goals in 5 games against his former team for a brief period of time. And the Montreal Canadiens, yes, the Canucks came back, but the Montreal Canadiens swept the Vancouver Canucks on this recent 2-game miniseries that is not 3 games, like I thought, but whatever. We will worry about that later. Sean, what is going on here? How?
It's the same thing as the last as the 3-game set that they played at home. It was turnover city. Like they went to the bakery. They and were gifting the Habs a shit ton of turnovers and easy odd man breaks, and it's so frustrating to watch. They played better last night, which was nice. It's a small win, but at this point you take it. Like I know I saw a lot of people saying best loss of the season. Is that where we're at? I'm like, at this point, yes. And you have to take the positives out of last night. They played a little bit better. They came back. They made it a game. It's unfortunate that they are so piss poor at their puck management, giving away puck in horrible spots right around the blue line. Devin, do you remember growing up playing hockey and how our coaches always yelled at us to not give the puck away at either blue line?
Yeah, that is the worst spot to give it up. Either you get it out or you get it deep.
Get it out or get it deep. And that the Canucks are not doing that. They're trying to be too fancy, too cute with passes around the blue line, whether it's cycling it high in the offensive zone, which I freaking hate with a passion. It was why I hated Nikolai Goldobin so much. He always was cycling high in the zone. You need to cycle low. That's safer. You can still create offense down there, and then cycle high briefly to create offense. Don't cycle high all the time. And then they're trying to break out with speed, and they're trying to break out with and create these offensive chances when they're not there, and it's really, really frustrating to watch. It's a fixable issue, which is nice though. If they can figure this out and just stop trying to be too fancy and get the puck out and get the puck deep, and then just work on and creating offense that way, this season can turn around. There's a lot of doom and gloom within the Canucks media and fan base right now, and I get it. But if you watch the games, this is all fixable stuff. This is all fixable within this year. It could be fixable within the next 2 games. Plus, I think the Habs are in the Canucks' head. Toffoli's in the Canucks' head. They get a couple goals, and it's just like, oh crap, here we go again. And then they squeeze their sticks a little too tight, and they start making more mistakes, making poor decisions with the puck, not executing properly, and then the snowball gets bigger and starts rolling downhill, and next thing you know, you're like in a cartoon, you've been run over with it and rolling with it. So for me, it's frustrating, but it's all fixable issues. This isn't a systematic issue. This isn't a an issue about talent. This is an execution issue. This is a decision making issue, and those are fixable.
Devin?
I was watching the Flames game when that was going on, but it just seems like Toffoli has their number, and it's hard when you have a player that just feels it. And right now, Toffoli's feeling it. I don't know if there was some animosity towards Jim Benning, and he just wants to get back at the association for it. But it really, he's flying right now, and who knows if he's going to be able to stop. And especially when you do not want this issue when you only have 7 teams within a division. That's all that you're playing. And God, you need to find a way to shut that down, whether or not it's Roussel getting in his cage, rattling him a little bit. And you got to have those guys willing to get dirty. Like, I know you guys don't have a Matthew Tkachuk type of player, but Roussel, he could easily do that enough. Get Zach McEwen on his case. Make sure that you finish every check against him so that he is scared to go to the dirty places. Otherwise, he's just going to eat you alive this year.
It's not so much the dirty places. It's just he's been wide open from the blue line in. I mean, he's like, it's crazy. And I think the thing that is very interesting is, remember when we had Joel on when we did the Canadians preview, and you can check that out, by the way, if you want to. Feel free to do that. We were speculative and we were suspicious about Tyler Toffoli playing the left side. We were like, he's never played the left side, and now he's playing the left side, and I don't know, he's figured something out against Vancouver anyway. Like, he seems to be comfortable there.
It's that there's a confidence and that the whole Canadians team is playing with right now. Suzuki, Deneau, and Kotkaniemi have wingers that are all are skilled enough to make it work for them. Josh Anderson is playing out of his mind. That is, like, you can quibble about the length of that contract, but for right now, he is well worth every single dime of that contract. He is playing out of his mind. He's an absolute, like, when Washington won the Stanley Cup, Tom Wilson was on another level in terms of a power forward. Josh Anderson is at that level right now, and it's going to be tough for any team to stop him if he continues to play like that for this whole season.
Not to mention their defense. I figured. I remember Graham from Oilers YYC. He was talking about Joel Edmondson and how much of a plug he is. But I've ever since he kind of came into his own in St. Louis, he's been a great player. He plays the hard minutes, gritty minutes, and he plays on the PK, blocks shots, hits. Like, he's so good. And I feel like that blue line is just on a different level too. That top 4 was Sherratt and Weber, and then you have Edmondson and Petrie. Holy, who would have thought that he was this offensively talented and has that gift to score? I didn't. I remember watching him in Edmonton and like literally shitting on him constantly because he just kept on giving the puck away. But it seems like he's really figured it out now. And God, if you're looking at that sea, that Red Sea, not the Calgary Flame Sea, but the other Red Sea coming into your barn, you got to be ready because they're fucking good.
The depth on that blue line too is really good, really impressive. They've like Victor Mete's playing when he gets a chance, plays well. Alexander it's Romanov. I think that's how he wants it. Is Romanov. That's what I was trying to get. I was like, how are they pronouncing it? But yeah, Alexander Romanov is playing really well. Yeah, he rotated out this past game, but I really like his game. And going forwards, they have a really good player in him, and I think he's going to be pushing for top 4 minutes, maybe in top pair minutes within the next 2 years.
We'll talk about him more in a different capacity, but Nick Suzuki as well has been a I think we were all like, he's coming, but this year it's been more, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi has been more. But to me, I think the other side of this, the other part of this that has been a really, probably the best acquisition was Jake Allen, because you've given Carey Price rest, and you've got found money in wins here from a backup goaltender, which I do think is part of what we're playing with here. I think that ultimately is probably one of the best acquisitions too. I mean, they just look like, I mean, it's, I guess we can get microscopic here and we can always just say, like, what's wrong with the Canucks? I mean, can they play the Senators 92 times out of 95? Everything will be great. But you got to give credit to this Montreal Canadian team. They are way better than I speculated, way better than I think a lot of people had. I mean, they are flying right now, and they're going to be at this point, they are very tough to beat for anybody, including Devin, the Toronto Maple Leafs, to be fair.
Absolutely. And I remember people shitting on the GM out there for
Bergevin.
Mark Bergevin, thank you, for putting $14 million, almost $15 million into their goalies. And the reason why they're doing so well is because collectively they're all coming together and they want to win. So good on them. And
1,000th game last night, Shea Weber. We all thought that trade was stupid. That trade was terrible. Montreal won that trade hands down, without question. And maybe they have one of the best captains in the league.
Yeah, he's how old is he now? He is 35. I mean, at the end of this contract, you can say what you want about it, but right now he's killing it. And obviously Bergevin saw something within PK Subban that he didn't like. And you talk about that feud going back when PK was with the Habs. So Mark Bergevin, I was shitting on him a couple years ago. He's made some moves here that really are paying off now.
Yeah, that I think everyone was like, okay, short term, I think the Canadians will look better, but long term, Subban with the Preds is going to look better. But it's turned out that Weber's been a better fit in Montreal than he's made the team better. So
look where Subban is now.
Yeah, and Subban's fallen off a cliff, and I don't think no one predicted that. So he looks a lot smarter than everyone made him out to be when that trade happened. That was one hell of a day, wasn't it? Was that the same day that?
Yep. It was within 30 minutes. It was Weber for Subban. I remember being in editing class. Mm-hmm. And we were all looking like, what the heck just happened? And then all of a sudden, what the heck just happened again? Yeah.
Because even before that, Stamkos re-signed in Tampa, breaking all the Maple Leafs fans' hearts as well that day.
Yeah. Because there was a parade that day. It was going to go down Yonge Street. Stephen Stamkos, they were having a hallelujah moment. I believe they had a picture of Stephen Stamkos in Toronto Maple Leafs pajamas before John Tavares. They were just going to Photoshop it.
I can tell you 100% sure I did not want Stephen Stamkos to come to Toronto. I didn't like it. So you can call me a liar, but that's exactly what my take was.
Yeah. Just to get back here to the Canucks, I guess. This doesn't. We'll just quickly touch on this. This doesn't look good on Jim Benning, though. This Toffoli getting 8 goals. What happened here? It doesn't look good on the public perception now on Jim Benning. Doesn't look good.
No, it does not. It's not, and because Toffoli scored that many goals against it's such an easy, low-hanging fruit piece to just gnaw on. By media and fans who are looking for blood, just looking for something to just pick apart. As I said, it's not the major issue why the Canucks are 6-7 after 13 games and have been blown out by Montreal in four games, but it's definitely part of the issue, but as I talked about earlier, there's a lot of fixable issues on the Canucks that don't have anything to do with Tyler Toffoli, but his 8 goals in 5 games makes it so hard to look past and dig into why the real reasons why they're struggling.
Yeah. And one of the targets is JT Miller. There was a poll question from a radio station suggests that he should be scratched. Asking that poll question. There was also a question on another radio station today questioning if he's playing for the front of the jersey or the back of the jersey. To me, this looks like a guy that's just frustrated. You look at what happened last year. This guy comes in. Nobody knows who JT Miller is. We're debating whether or not a first-round pick was worth it or not. Proved to be pretty right at the time. He became a heart and soul guy, a leader on this team. He's not off to a good start. I'm not saying he's playing well, but the criticism on here, I personally don't think is fair. And I know that you have to sometimes create content on radio stations as a person in media. I get it. But the criticism right now that I'm seeing on JT Miller doesn't seem to be fair. This guy flew off from a COVID list, flew off a plane to play right away against the Calgary Flames to start the season without getting his sea legs behind him. I think we just need to kind of calm here. Calm. Stretch. Relax.
It's just it's part of it is because they've lost just so poorly in a handful of these games. If the games were close and and the Canucks were losing by a goal, a bounce here or there, then I think the market would be a lot less just up in arms with how it's played and how certain players have played. None of the top players that the Canucks have played well, consistently played well through these 13 games. Petey hasn't played well. Horvat hasn't consistently played well. He's had a couple really good games, but he's had some off games. But he's been one of the more consistent players. Miller hasn't played well. Quinn Hughes isn't at his best either. Like, it's the whole top end of that lineup is not playing at the top at their potential. And when you have that, it's just and then you've got, I think the biggest issue with JT Miller is how vocal he's been. And because there's no fans and no background noise, we're hearing the F-bombs left, right, and center from him every game. And I think that's part of it, is people are looking at going, oh, is he creating draft? Is there something in that? Is that frustration making things not work in the dressing room and everything like that? But that's just, there's players like that on every team. Doesn't matter if you're playing NHL or at NHL level or Olympic level or beer league level. There's always one player on the team who's going to be very very vocal and very crass when they express their frustration, whether it's on the ice or in the dressing room. It happens. You have to work through it. Just like the Flames looks like the Flames have tried with their players only team meeting. I think the Canucks need to start thinking about something like that and try and work through this and figure out why and understand what the frustration that everyone's having.
The media is just trying to find ways to, I think, just find ways to create content, to be completely honest with you. this is a team game. This isn't a basketball league where you can rely on one person just to light it up. We don't have a bunch of McDavids over on anybody else's team except for Edmonton to make those game-breaking plays. It's just it's a collective effort. We were just talking about the Canadians and how they've come together as a team. And I think that's a struggle with Vancouver right now. They just have not been able to find that chemistry, find the niche. And it's nobody's one person's fault. And like setting a message, quote unquote, setting a message to JT Miller for not playing well and scratching him. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You don't do that to your star players. And the whole F-bomb thing, like, God, fuck. You can't. You really just gotta understand that these are passionate people. If I would be concerned if there was no F-bombs, if there was no give a shit meter. That's when you got to be scared. That's when you got Pierre-Luc Dubois on your hand for his last game in Columbus, because he didn't look like he gave a shit at all, and he was moved within what seemed, I think it was 24 hours of that game, and like that's when you got to be worried. But I'm not overly concerned with the Canucks. Yes, they haven't played well, but the track record of them is better than what they're playing right now, and they'll just need to figure it out. And the reason why everybody's freaking out is because there's not a lot of time to figure this out. You have 14 games that you guys played, 13, 12, right around there.
I believe the Canucks have played the most games though, which is a little bit of a concern.
Well, yeah, so they played 13 games, and they've got 12 points out of the 13 games. But yeah, you're within striking distance of a whole bunch of other teams. Edmonton's not. Edmonton has one less game played, and they're the same points as the Vancouver Canucks. So yes, there's a bit of concern within the association, but like. You really just they need to, yeah, Sean said it best. You need to have a players only meeting or something along those lines. And it's hard to have that cohesion when all you can do is just sit in a hotel room all the time and actually not hang out with your team to try and figure this out, because that's what happened in the old days is that, you kind of go on a bender. You go have a couple beers and figure this shit out. And that's where team bonding happens. And that could be an issue too, is that they're not able to do those things.
But the other thing is the schedule. You talk about, yeah, they played 13 games most, but whatever. Like you go, like they've only really lost a lot to the Habs. They played 5 games against the Habs, so that's like that's 38% of the season against the Habs right now. They did
get swept against the Flames though too.
That's only 2 games out of. There's still 7 left.
That's fair. No, I'm just
left against the. But there's so much hockey left to be played, and it's not this season because it's all interdivisional. Like, every game is 4 points. They go off and they beat Toronto. They even split with Toronto, and then they go off and they can just start winning some games against everyone else. Doesn't matter. It does. Like they're going to be in the battle for the playoffs. That's just the way it is. There concerns, yes, but as I said, these fixes, these issues are fixable. These issues are not systematic. They aren't talent related. They are mental gaffes and just trying to do too much. So if they go in and they would get 2 points out of Toronto. Or if they could get 4, it completely shifts the narrative again. Like this is only they've only really struggled. Yes, they got swept by the Flames, and those games weren't, but those were early in the season. And they came back. They swept Ottawa. They played a really good game against Winnipeg, and won. So if they can find their legs again and find their confidence, and because I don't think they played up Montreal for at least another couple weeks. So if they can rattle off like a bunch of wins here before they have to play Montreal again, and then say they managed to split it with Montreal, then all this like overreaction is all for naught, because guess what? They're in the playoff race. All they have to do is beat Winnipeg, 2 of Winnipeg, Calgary, and Edmonton to get in. And let's be honest, Winnipeg's flawed, Calgary's flawed, Edmonton's flawed. It's doable. It's still really, really early. It's still not anywhere close to must-win territory, but you need to start winning now. You need to start winning and start getting back on. Start playing games like you did in Winnipeg. Start playing games like you did in the 3rd game versus Ottawa, where you dominated. If you can get back to that, these 2 games and the 2 games they lost earlier to Montreal aren't going to matter as much. It's I know. Yes, it's a 56 game season. Yes, it's a little shorter than normal, but every game is so crucial now that just because you've played a little bit more games than everyone else and you're at just around 500, I could see 500 make the playoffs in this division, just because of how even a lot of these teams are, and how the way the schedule works, and how hard it is to actually gain and lose, how hard it is to gain ground if you're splitting the series. Because I think there's going to be a lot of series that are going to be won by a game here or there.
Yeah, parity is the name of the game. That's Gary Bettman's favorite word, and he's been trying to get that within the NHL for a while now, and it's finally here. And Sean's right. And there's no team other than the Montreal Canadiens that are looking like they're by far the best team in this division. Everybody is within striking distance of each other right now, and yeah, 500 could be the fourth place team making it to the playoffs. And God, it's interesting to see the reaction of all the media and the fans trying to figure it out themselves. But it's a team game once again. They just got to come together and play as a team.
Well, this will kind of blend, because I want to show you this here, and okay, make sure I have that on. Do I have it on? Share screen. Here. Okay. My question is, there it is. Okay. So I want to play this. This is Paul Maurice today talking about Blake Wheeler.
What do you mean by that?
What was the question?
Now or the one last night?
No, I got the one just now, the one last night.
Last night, you were asked about Blake, and you said you'd have more to say in a couple of weeks.
I don't follow the media very much. My man Brownie every once in a while accused me that he'd taken some heat for his play. So I was going to wait for a couple of weeks when we get all our players in our lineup and tell you what I think of them.
Go next to Ken Weave from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weaver.
Paul, what did you take from your second period in terms of the defense?
Okay, I'm just going to fast forward. Sorry, this is
more push.
He's not playing his best hockey.
I'd just like you to be right about it. Like, right, you'll do your deep dives and analytics, and God, they do a job of telling you what 5 guys do. Like the goal that you're beaking them on last night, you got put in a real tough spot by a back check by somebody else, right? And I'm sensitive to it because I've been in awe of this guy since I got here. His work level, like he's unimpeachable in his character and how he runs that room and how he plays. He's got 11 points in 10 games, and yeah, shift length shorter because I'm asking the whole hockey team to run their shift shorter, and that's what he does as a captain. He'll bolt off the ice as fast as he can.
We'll stop it there, but this the whole thing, and even with JT Millard as an example, he got 11 points in 10 games, and we're all sitting here and we're criticizing, the media is criticizing because they saw one play, and the Jets won last night. They won the game last night, and you still have Paul Maurice is still having to take that question. Like, I guess where is that line between, you know, I understand the need for, and I'm probably going to get in trouble from some media people from pushing this, but I am going to push this a little bit. There seems to be a line that they're crossing where they feel like they have, like, we're dissecting every single play, like they have like this knowledge. You're not in a room. They're not on the plane. They're not in a hotel. They're not on that ice every day. And Paul Maurice is like, you don't see this guy every day. Like, just get this information right. Like, am I offside here? But I think the media sometimes is making a mountain out of a molehill and asking some some strange questions at strange times.
Well, I think what's happening is that it seems like it's just magnified right now because they can't actually go in the room. They can't actually be personable with the players and be personal with the coach when the mics are off and try and figure out exactly what's going on in that room. And so that it seems like they're just pulling for anything that they can find. And I mean, they're basically doing what we're doing. We only have access to what we can see on TV and analyze it from there. But I think, just not having that access to the room is making all this blow out of proportion. And is it fair to players? Absolutely not. But it's funny, if you go back before COVID, you had the players being upset about not being upset, but wanting to have a bit less access to the media. And now that they're going to see the wrath of the media because they have no access. So it's unfortunate, but it's a reality right now.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. Not being able to be a little more personable with some of these players and the coaches when asking these questions. And then because you can't hash it out behind cameras, it just gets magnified when you do ask those questions. But everything is magnified right now. There was no preseason. It was a shortened camp. These guys, like, everyone's like, that's what's making the Habs look so much better than everyone else right now is they're running on full cylinders while everyone else is sputtering around with like one cylinder not quite working properly, at least one cylinder. I think the Canucks on certain game days have like one cylinder working out of their 6 or 8, whatever engine you want to compare it to. But I think it's just a bunch of things running into it, as well as I think people are still trying to learn how to use analytics and how when you can use them as a criticism, when you can use them as a positive, and when you have to wait. I think that's part of it too. I think everyone looks at these shot attempt numbers, these Corsi numbers, game to game, and they give you a bit of a picture, but you still need more. You still need more games to understand whether or not it's a pattern, or they just had a bad game, or they've had a couple bad games. And I think I get into this argument with so many people. I get in this argument on Twitter. I get in this argument with people on the C4 Discord that I'm part of for Canucks, and they just keep spouting off these stats. And like, therefore this person is bad, or therefore this person is good. I'm like, okay, I always ask why when I look at these stats, and I always ask why when I look at a highlight. Why did that happen? Why does the stat? Why are these stats this way? And I don't think there's enough questions. I don't think there's enough people asking those questions personally. And so they're asking the coaches and the players these questions, hoping to get those answers. And then when everyone's on edge, they're getting those type of answers in return. And those questions may not be asked in the right way, or again, they're not being able to hash it out behind the scenes. And so they have to hash it out during these Zoom call interviews. And I bet, to be honest, I want to talk to some like people, like media members who have been in the room and done all this, and see how many times they've actually had coaches, players, call them aside and basically do what Paul Maurice did, but not in front of the camera, not on the record up until this point. But because you don't have access to them to do that, they're doing it on the record, which is great for anyone who's looking for drama and stories and content. But it's just not this. I don't think it's something that's going to last once the reporters are allowed back in the rooms.
Well, I do wonder how that's going to change. I mean, this wasn't the first one. We had Jacob Voracek on the Flyers reporter a couple of weeks ago, lambasted him too. So, and then you got Austin Matthews versus Steve Simmons as well. So, I mean, that's not for play. That's for private information reasons. But I do wonder how that's going to change. I mean, but it's fascinating to kind of think about it. And it's, I mean, I know some people may disagree with this, but good on the players for starting to stand up, and good on the coaches to say, look, I think you need to just chill out here, which I think we can blend this to the Flames, because if that's okay, unless we have something else with the Canucks we need to talk about. But David Rittich played last night, allowed 3 goals in the first period. You saw Twitter, where's Jacob Markstrom? Bring in Markstrom. And Devin, I guess from your perspective, he didn't allow a goal after the first period. That was it. He shut it down. He did some big save Dave things, old school big save Dave things. Where were you on the criticism of David Rittich?
It's not warranted. I mean, if you're going to criticize the second goal when Chris Tanev decided to run into Noah Hannafin and just let Chris Forbert come on in, and that shot should have been a save for sure. The first one, okay, you might be able to debate that, but I mean, it was shorthanded. Lucic coughed off the puck, and then it was just chaos. And then the third goal, I've heard people criticize the third goal too. Are you kidding me? First of all, I want to give huge props to Ehlers. That was an amazing tip. I don't think Carey Price would have stopped that, or name a goalie, or even I guess Jacob Markstrom, for argument's sake. I don't think Markstrom would have stopped that. That was this amazing goal. So if you're going to criticize him on the second goal. He played pretty damn well, and when the last 3 games that he played, he was cleanup duty against the Dallas Stars in the last game of the season, or of the playoffs for the Flames last year. And then, he just hasn't had the time to play and to get into a rhythm that he normally feels. He's played at least half of the games, if not just under half of the games, pretty much every year that he's been a part of the Flames. And it's just, it's hard when you feel like you're getting into a place within an organization, and then they go out and grab a number 1 goalie in Jacob Markstrom. That's going to fuck with your head. And you just need reps. So if anything, you need to play him more, and don't give me oh yeah, let's put in Louis Domingue. Fuck off with that take. Louis Domingue is not as good of a goalie as David Rittich as a backup, and just got to give him time. You have to get him into games so that, first of all, the team is able to rely or have the confidence within him to make the saves and show that he is able to do that. And second of all, it's once again, I've said it multiple times already, he needs time in the net. That's it. And the criticism towards him, I think, is ridiculous. And you're going to see him before an Ottawa Senators game. You will. We already have a back-to-back. When's that back-to-back here? Against the Oilers 2 weeks from now, 2.5 weeks from now. So you're going to see him before you hit Ottawa, and that's going to happen. So you need to have some trust in the process. And once again, it's just people freaking out because it is a shortened season, and you need the wins, you need the points. But be realistic about your expectations with David Rittich, and understand that. Look once again. Look at the goals. realistically, look at those goals and you tell me that if not just the second one, if all three were his fault, that's ridiculous. DM me, please.
How Gord Howe 09 on Twitter, by the way.
That's right.
How much time would you give him, though?
It's hard when Riddick's or when Markstrom's played so well to get him in there, but you need to rely on your backup every once in a while to take over for your goaltender. Look at Koskinen up in Edmonton. He's played every single game. Look at Vasilevsky, and I know this is a bit different because Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky, but he hasn't had a day off either. But that's going to catch up to you. Maybe not at game 30, but game 40, game 50, especially once games start to matter. You need to have a reliable backup. I look at, once again, going back to Montreal, when you have Jake Allen as your backup, being able to give Carey Price that rest. Jacob Markstrom is not going to be able to play every single game this entire year. So you need to have him into these games. And with Vancouver coming up, Vancouver doesn't have a solidified number one either. So you kind of are able to put him into a couple games there. And I think that's when you need to. And it's just hard when you have a number one goalie like Markstrom, and he's played so well.
Okay, I just want to ask you something, Devin. Saturday against the Oilers, who do you play? Markstrom or Rittich?
Play Markstrom.
Yeah, you're playing Markstrom. You got 2 days off after that.
Okay. The reason I ask is Rittich has, of course, had the blowout game. Do you give him? I'm just asking. Do you give him the opportunity for revenge?
Eventually, once he gets his legs under him, absolutely. But he hasn't proven that he's been able to do that. And if you're going with that narrative, you want to give him the best opportunity to win against the Oilers, and that's not right now.
Yeah, and
they've got a back-to-back against the Oilers in 2 weeks. He's going to play one of those games.
Yeah, probably. And I mean the Montreal game, the first Montreal game, I think maybe that was one goal. I think that was his fault. I think one went off Valimaki's stick.
Yep.
The Flames didn't play well the entire game. So I do see your point, I guess, but I do think I just wonder where that leash is with David Rittich.
Well, like I said, I could see him playing against Vancouver, maybe even the Saturday night game against the second game of 3 or 4 actually against Vancouver. They're once again it's a funny game that I see coaches play with starting their backup or not starting their backup. You could make the argument that when you're playing a poorer team or a team not as good, that you start your number one goalie because that is a guaranteed win, in quotations, or you start him or you start your backup there because that's an easier matchup. So it really depends on what Jeff Ward does. But with Vancouver having not a number one goalie, and they don't know whether or not Demko is their number one or if Holtby is their number one, or they're not going to be number ones. They're going to be tandem. But you know what I'm saying? Like you'll be able to have a good matchup there if you're looking at the matchups.
The way I look at it, I've got their schedule up. If I'm Jeff Ward, I play Markstrom Thursday versus Winnipeg at Winnipeg. Then you play Markstrom on Saturday versus Edmonton. You got 2 days off. Then you're playing Winnipeg again, Markstrom again. Then you play Markstrom in the first 3 games in Vancouver. You play Rittich in the home game versus Vancouver, and then you play Rittich again on the 19th when they're playing versus Edmonton, and then you've got a back-to-back. That's a Friday. You're back-to-back, so your second game is Markstrom. So then you're giving Rittich 2 games in a row. That should be that makes the most sense. And then you can go Markstrom for next 3 games, and then you got another back-to-back, and the second half of the that second back-to-back is against Ottawa. So then it's an easy put Rittich in against Ottawa on the second night of a back-to-back. So that's still 3 starts through February for Rittich.
I would even throw him in there in the first game against Vancouver next Thursday. not this coming Thursday, but next Thursday at the start of the series, the 4-game series against Vancouver, because then you go Riddick, Markstrom, Riddick, and then you have Riddick against the first game against the Oilers. To me, that makes more sense in getting him in the rhythm and getting him going, because you need those points. You need to make sure your backup is ready, and right now he's not.
Yeah. That's a problem, and it's also the team in front of him and how they play in front of him too, right? And Markstrom. It's an arguable point. It's a fair point that Markstrom's covering up errors for sure.
Oh yeah,
like for sure. That's so. And then
what he does.
Yeah, and Markstrom's just going to make the saves that Riddick won't, and that's just that. But I guess the other thing, that as we look here at the players only meeting, the Flames had a players only meeting. We kind of talked about this on Sunday. You can go back and listen to that podcast, by the way, or watch that. What do we come out of this? Are the Flames better? Are they the same?
I'd say they're better. I'd say that they not being able to have the camaraderie time, like I was talking about with the Canucks, having that forum and that open floor of people, of players trying to figure out what's going on here, and holding themselves accountable, rather than relying on the coach to set that accountability. And to me, that's when you're actually playing for each other, not with each other, but for the person next to you, is when you have those honest conversations. I think that they are better. I think that they definitely came out against the Canadiens, and that was a gritty win. That was not an average Calgary Flames win. And we lost, or the Calgary lost twice against, most recently against Winnipeg, but they also won against Winnipeg the day before, the first of the back-to-back. So if people thinking that it's not, that it didn't work, I think that's ridiculous. First of all, it's too early to tell. They've only played 3 games since they've had that talk with each other. And having that talk early on within the season and saying that this isn't good enough and that we need to be playing better, that's massive. That's huge. That shows the leadership skills of the leadership group. And the fact that you're playing once again for the guy next to you, not just with them.
I think there's been some growth. I think there's been some really gritty wins. I agree with you. They're not necessarily dominant. They fought back, made a game of it against Winnipeg, a 3-2. So I think there's steps in the right direction, but I still think that there's work to do. I think that I still think, still things to work on there. I think the 6th defense, unless injured, I think that this is what they're going to go with for most of the year. Unless there's an injury or someone needs a break, but that's pretty much your 6. Lines, I guess for me, I think they look fairly solid. Lindholm, Tkachuk, Dubé, Monahan, Gaudreau, Mangiapane looks fine. Backlund, Bennett, Levo, that looks fine. The lines, everything looks fine. They just probably need to. They can't have that 30-second slip up was what cost them the game yesterday.
Well, it was that, and once again, they just need to play a complete game. They need to play from start to finish. And yes, you're going to have swings within that within the game, but you can't have those 30-second slip ups, and that's been the knock for the Flames for the past 6 years. Honestly, it's just the lack of consistency throughout a game is just. They need to start figuring it out, and I think that's where Markstrom has been so good, is that he's always been there, or he's been there for the beginning of the year, and been able to, like Sean said, that's what he does. He just puts Band-Aids on the big boo-boos of the game, and it's going back to your other point though, Kev, how There's stuff to work on, of course. That's why I'm not 100% sold on Montreal as much as we're giving them a lot of praise. This might be their peak
either. Yeah,
this might be their peak, and then they might just start whittling down. And you want to be ramping up just before the playoffs or for the playoff push. And I mean, look at Tampa Bay a couple years ago. They were amazing throughout the regular season, and then they shit the bed against Columbus and got swept. So and going back to the Canucks, don't be worried. As long as there is progression and you see that progression, then there's nothing to worry about as of yet. But if you don't see that progression, and I think that's where the Canucks are freaking out, is because it's such a roller coaster with them right now. It's like it's hard to have confidence game in, game out with what they're doing. So yeah, I going back to the Flames, as far as lineups go, I would love to see Connor Mackey in, and it's hard to have a Nesterov sit or a Valimaki sit because they played phenomenally last couple of games. Nesterov with normally he got the puck in the neutral zone, and normally you go back and regroup in your own defensive zone, but he just did a button hook and was back on the attack. That blew my mind. Like little things like that. And Valimaki with his assist with Johnny, that was phenomenal.
Nice pass, yeah.
It's gorgeous. So as much as I would love to see some sort of shakeup within the defense, they played too damn well to really warrant sitting a guy. And I guess, the forwards, once again, they need to get Backlund going, but it's hard to get Backlund going when he's the third line center and you have he's playing behind Monahan, who's, once again, I've loved the way that he's played. That for me, that's going all the way back to the bubble. I thought that he was showing strides and wanting or being able to diversify his game and not so much just a pure sniper or goal scorer within the slot. He's mixing it up in between the whistles. And Lindholm, I think that he's played amazing within the first 9 games of this year. So if anything, you need to find a way to get back and going, and maybe that's putting him on the wing with Johnny and Monty. I know they've tried that in the past, but I don't know. It's hard for somebody to get going without giving them ice time.
And maybe I'm just gonna toss it out here. I don't know if Josh Levo should be on a shootout. I'm just saying. You have Josh Levo, you have Johnny Gaudreau. I'm not an expert, but maybe I don't know.
To me, that was just coaching, trying to give Josh Levo some confidence. It seems like he is able to, or it seems like, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Josh Levo, it seems like he's that Ward's trying to give him that confidence that because he hasn't been playing at all for the past year because of his injury, and that's a big knee injury that came out of it. It was reconstruction. So I understand it, but maybe not the last shooter or the third shooter in a shootout. I could definitely see him going maybe 2. But yeah, you want to have Johnny Gaudreau in there when it counts, because God, that shootout goal was fucking amazing.
Levo's played well, except he's just not producing offensively.
Yeah, well, he's got a hell of a shot, that's for sure. We all kind of knew this, and Sean especially, because he did play for the Canucks for a bit there. So it's just
before that too.
Well, he didn't really get it.
Play.
No, and that's why he got traded. That was Dubas being nice to a player. A player's GM, if you will. But it's just, I think it's just getting confidence up for him and making sure that he feels like he's contributing on some sort of level, because I think he does have that potential. And I guess we'll revisit this conversation, mid-season to see where he's at then. But I truly believe that he can play on not an elite level, but he can play with those big boys up there.
Josh Levo, just for curiosity's sake, is 2 for 7 on shootouts.
I'm sure he's good, but he's just, it was a weird move. It was a weird flex.
It was.
Unless you knew that, And I was like, I wonder if that's I should look at his shootout stats because I have a funny feeling that's why he did it. But yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll see here with those. So the Flames have one more against Winnipeg, and then they have the Oilers on Saturday, which will be a lot of fun. But anything else with the Flames? All right, let's get. There was some other news here. The Craig Button released his early projected Olympic roster. I have it here, so we'll just do a quick share screen, Chrome tab. There we go. Can you see that? There we go. All right, so we have in goal Price, Hart, Mackenzie Blackwood, Theodore Makar on defense, Morgan Riley and Alex Pietrangelo, Thomas Chabot, Shea Weber, Bowen Byram, Colton Perico. Up front, some guy named Connor McJesus, Jonathan Huberdeau, Nathan McKinnon. You got Crosby, Marchand, and Bergeron. Point, Horvat, Marner, Scheifele, O'Reilly, Stone, and then the two extra forwards, Suzuki and Barzell. Is there anyone on here that you were surprised is on this list?
There's two for me. Suzuki and Bowen Byram. I'm not saying that they're not good enough. I just think that their resumes are not. They're like, especially Bowen Byram, who's played how many NHL games? Like, as good as he can be, like there's still other really good left shot defensemen out there. And then you've got with Nick Suzuki, I think he could get there. There's so the depth down the middle for Team Canada is insane. Sean Couturier should be on that team.
My question mark is Mackenzie Blackwood. You have Jordan Binnington as well, and I feel like he is a better goalie than Mackenzie Blackwood.
Let alone the NHL goalie for the GM of Team Canada.
Yeah. So I have a feeling you just kind of put that in there to stir up some controversy along with Bowen Byram. Nick Suzuki, probably not the best, I guess, last forward on there, 13th forward, 14th forward. But otherwise I'm not overly I can't really criticize too much. I mean, Jonathan Huberdeau, I think if he was in any other market, he'd be a fucking star. Yeah. That guy is phenomenal. And having him with a playmaker like him with Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon, oh my God. But I do want to see Crosby and McDavid together on a line with probably Nathan McKinnon. And I think that'd be a fun line to have there. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's if this does happen. Hopefully it does. That they were able to put them on a line, because that should happen.
What about Barzell, McKinnon, and McDavid in terms of the Roadrunner line? Like, who's gonna be able to catch them?
God. Either that or Braden Point and Mitch Marner. They're fast too. Like, God, there's so many different combinations there that you could just throw in there and just be salivating to watch. That's for sure.
Go ahead, Sean.
As I say, there's a few rosters out there, right? And it's really interesting to see who's putting players where and all that. And not only is Team Canada going to be fun to watch in terms of trying to figure out who's on that team, but the U.S. as well. Like the amount of depth that U.S. has now, like this isn't like it was in the World Cup in '96 or even 2010, when you kind of knew like 90% of the roster, and you're like, all right, and then what plugs are they going to fill the rest of the roster with? That's not the case anymore.
This is gonna be fun. Yeah,
they're probably gonna have arguably the best defense. The depth up front is going to be ridiculous, and then you still have to figure out. And then the goaltending, they're gonna have a really good set of goaltenders, and because it's Scott Burnside and Craig Custance did their team US team predictions.
Do you have that?
I've got a spreadsheet of all of them, so I can pull that up.
I have a few names that I think are missing that I'd like to discuss, if you don't
Team
mind.
Canada?
Yes. Mr. Tavares, maybe?
Yeah, that's an option.
Yeah. Sorry.
I've got another one. I don't think this guy's been talked about, but I actually think he would fit. I think he would play a very good role. What about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins?
Yeah.
Yep. He's there too. I guess the other questionable one was I'm trying to think of who you can take off of here, but sorry Canucks fans, but Bo Horvat, I don't know if he's quite there. As much as I'd love to see him on that team, I don't think he's quite there just yet. So don't count on it.
I'm with you there, Dev. As much as I love Bo Horvat and the way he plays the game, and he's going to be in tough. Like anyone, out of that list that Craig Button's put up there, Bo Horvat, Mark Scheifele, Barzal, and Nick Suzuki are the ones that stand out to me that are going to be in tough. I think by next, even put Barzal in there, even though I think he should be a lock. And I would even say Patrice Bergeron. He's 36 right now. Is he going to be able to? Are you going to bring someone that already with? Are you going to bring him to when you have other options like Anthony Cirelli, Mark Stone, Ryan O'Reilly? They all play that same. They could play that role, and they're younger and faster. Like
I may be hot taking this. But I think that there's a legitimate argument that maybe O'Reilly has passed Bergeron and doing what Bergeron has done. Or, if not, it's close.
It's damn close. That's a great take, Kev. I like that one.
Yeah. Here, I'll pulling up Tahachek's and Durance's. I put them into a spreadsheet there. If you can see it, I zoomed it in enough. So like it looks. Hold on here.
Yeah, no, it's not working out quite.
No, hold on. Boom.
There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that. But yeah, there you go. It's we've got Tahachek's got Nugent Hopkins on his team. Drance has Couturier, but Drance also has Giordano making the blue line, which I think is a little bit bit 2018.
No. and Ryan Ellis. I'm not completely sold on Ryan.
I don't mind the Ellis take but it's a bit of a reach as well. And then you've got but I think they still both have Bergeron. Oh no, Tahachek doesn't. So no. Yeah, I think like I said there's a lot to play with this with all of this, and whether or not to see like Taylor Hall wasn't even on Button's team. That's another name that could if he lights it up. He's got speed to burn, right?
Yeah. Tahachek has Horvat over Tavares too.
Yeah.
And Claude Giroux is not on this team.
Yeah. See again, another like Giroux. He said Couturier. They both have Couturier on there, but I think that's a good pick. There's again, it's the Team Canada. It's like you could put together a Team Canada from the players not picked, and they could probably medal.
Yeah,
Like that's not a slight against any other of the other teams, but it's just the depth of Canada and the drive of Team Canada.
Yeah. Another name, I think, and again, this is same with Huberdeau because he plays in the same team. But if Aaron Ekblad played anywhere else, I think he would probably be a lock on a lot of Team Canadas.
I'll be interested to see where he fits, especially when again they've got. Did Button have Doughty on his right side?
No, he did not. No.
There's another aging player who you don't know what exactly you're going to get at come 2022 because this is like a year out, right?
I don't see Doughty being on there. Like I said, Ellis, I'm just curious and interested to see on both the Hasek and Drance is that they have Hart as their second goalie, and they have Price and Binnington kind of swapped there, but Hart is your second goalie.
I think what they do is they go with the known guy as Price. Just look back at all the Olympic tournaments we've had. Whoever started in net hasn't ended there.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
In 2002, it was Waugh started there, but Brodeur finished. In 2010, it was
Brodeur
started,
Luongo, and then it went to Brodeur. Yeah.
And then in 2006, I think was it Luongo again, or was it?
I don't remember.
I think it was Carey Price. I think they went to Carey Price for that.
Yeah,
one.
they went all the way with Carey Price.
Yeah.
2006, that team was a disaster. I like that team didn't.
Oh no! So 2006 was Luongo again,
Yeah.
but
2014.
14. That's the one I'm looking for.
Oh, yeah,
14 was all Price. 14 was all Price.
Yeah.
So, but you've got that depth, right? So,
who's coaching this team?
Mike
Babcock. Yep.
We both went for that joke.
No. Jeff Ward.
I don't know at this point.
Barry Trotz?
Seriously. Trotz, probably. Yeah. I wouldn't mind that at all. Good old Sasky boy.
It just depends on what type of team they want, right? The one thing Thomas Drance did talk about is how under Babcock they did play a very conservative style, just because they had all that talent and significantly better talent, especially on the blue line, than anyone else. That's not going to be the case in this tournament if this goes ahead. I think they're going to have to open it up a little bit more than Barry Trotz would want to.
Well, what do you think, Kev?
My first instinct was Barry Trotz. I'm just thinking that maybe if you go flow, maybe there's a room of Rod Brindamore.
Would love to see Rod on there.
Maybe
Travis
Gerard
Green.
I was gonna say Gerard Gallant or should get a look.
Pete DeBoer.
I mean, once again, there's so many different options, and that there's going to be a combination of all these coaches within that coaching staff. So yeah, I don't think there's a wrong answer there at all.
Bruce Cassidy.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating. Anyway,
there's a lot of options.
Yeah, for sure. That's the bottom line. But it's good. And Doug Armstrong was named GM, so.
And then I can pull up the American team here. So there you go. You've got. So the same thing. There's a little bit of everything. Sorry, I think I've got Cousins' goalies wrong. He's got Spencer Knight as his third goalie. Here, I'll fix that. But
yeah, just having the Tkachuk brothers on the same line, I think that would be
that would be fun.
Oh my God, I'd have a hard time not cheering for both of those guys, especially when they're that they do.
Yeah, but you look at that, and was it Burnside doesn't have either Gaudreau or Brock Besser on his on that roster.
Gaudreau is that's a complete miss. Besser, I could see him being a bit lower in the lineup for sure.
They've got Kane and Wheeler. I think are right there, and then it's open. I think for sure, but it's going to. And then the difference between their blue lines is pretty drastic as well. Was it? They both have their go-to veteran guy in McDonough and Suter.
Yeah.
And then I don't know why you put Krug on there instead of Werenski. Werenski is a better defenseman. I love that they both have Slavin in there. One of the most underrated defensemen in this league.
Yep. I remember doing our recap of his draft, and I was he went super high in mine. But yeah, it's I'm with Sean. Krug could probably go on Burnside, Urinsky, but once again, they're for once it seems like they actually have don't have to settle for your bottom pairing defenseman there.
Yeah, but I think Burnside's got Blake Coleman on there instead of Gaudreau or Besser, and then Pacioretty's not on Costance's. Like they've got depth, and they're gonna be one of the favorites in that tournament.
Yeah, Jack Hughes is down the middle on Custance as well, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Well, he's had one hell of a start to this season.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw one name in here. Noah Hannafin.
I just don't see him making it on that left side. You got Quinn Hughes, you got Slavin, you got your choice of Suter, McDonough, and Rowensky. Like, I just don't see him pushing into that.
If he keeps on playing the way that he is right now, it's hard not to have him on the team. But once again, it is a year away, and there's a lot that could happen between now and then.
I'm not saying he's past any of these guys, but I wonder if he's an extra. That I wonder. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, man.
Yeah. Anything else on this that we missed? I guess the final topic is the NWHL. Sadly, had to suspend operations because of COVID protocols. Two teams already had to kind of step away from the bubble. So at this point, it's suspended. What really sucks is they finally got some momentum. Heidi talked about this on Sunday. They were getting watches on Twitch. They were getting highlights on Hockey Night in Canada. They were getting updates. Things were looking good. And now this, it just sucks for them. And it's not folded, it's suspended, but still it's just one of those things. It's just an unfortunate trip up for the NWHL.
Yeah, it really sucks for them. They were gaining traction. They were getting the mainstream media was paying attention to them for the right reasons. They were actually, like I said, showing highlights and everything. I really, really hope that this can be the start to starting to figure out how to get the proper exposure for the NWHL, as well as to maybe find a way to bridge the divide between them and the PWHA, because it's time. They really need to find a way to grow the game and grow it for women's hockey specifically, because the market's there. Like, you just have they had over, I think they ended up with over 30,000 views, people watching that game, one of the games on Saturday, Sunday, last weekend, and that's fantastic. Like, do you think you could get, how many people watch all those freaking ridiculous rerun highlight shows on Sportsnet and Sportsnet and TSM play ad nauseum, versus that? Like, support them, give them a spot on TV, and watch it grow. That's what's going to happen.
They need either a Monday night hockey or a Friday night hockey or something like that. Like, junior hockey already has Friday night hockey, so you might be able to do a Monday night hockey where it's exclusively women's hockey, or some day that is specifically for them. I think that just allows them to grow the game. Like, obviously Wednesday, Saturday is for the NHL. I mean, you can blend it in, but it's blending in. It's not giving them. It was a step in the right direction. I will give you that, but I don't. Like, if you're the NWHL, I think you need that spotlight on the players.
That's a great point there, Kev. They definitely need to have their own night, and whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and those are pretty much the only days that they can really showcase themselves. Maybe even Sunday. That'll definitely help. But it really is too bad that they can't finish up their playoffs, or I guess they finished the season but couldn't even start the playoffs. So hopefully that they can get back out of here within the next 2 to 3 weeks, but it remains to be seen as of right now.
Yeah, Tuesday seems like a perfect spot for them, because then doesn't matter when you start their season, it's their own.
Yep.
Because if you start in the fall, then you're battling football and hockey, and men's hockey. So you can't do Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, or Saturday.
Yeah.
So and like you said, Friday is junior on Sportsnet. So Tuesday. And then Thursday's Thursday Night Football as well.
Yeah.
So Tuesday makes the most sense.
Yeah.
God, who cares about football? Good Lord. I'm just kidding. I know it's massive. I personally don't like it.
It's entirely fair. Well, let's wrap it up there. We will be back this weekend to chat more. How do we follow everyone?
Well, we'll be back this weekend to chat after we have Toronto versus Vancouver and Calgary versus Edmonton. I have a feeling it's going to get heated on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, this is going to get spicy. Wow.
So, yeah, you can follow me at BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
You can follow me at Gordhouse09 on Twitter.
Heidi is Heidi Mazeballs. Schneid's SCHNEIDZ. Tyler T Noble TNOBLE. I am KEVOLE. Podcast_hockey. Facebook.com. YouTube.com, where we have Daniel Sedita's about some subscribers. Facebook.com, as I said, and subscribe. The audio will be out shortly. Tell your friends we're the most underrated podcast in hockey. Thanks, everyone, and we will talk to you all very soon.